Alter Rebbe spends 3 prakim telling us the technicalities of tshuva. Perek Aleph is the nekuda of tshuva. The nekuda of tshuva is azivas achat bovad, going away from Avedis. And azivas achat bovad is understood in the Rambam and in the Alter Rebbe as being kabal alahaba, accepting for the future. It's not about charat alahaba, it's accepting for the future. Perek Beis and Gimel talk about returning to Hashem's graces through fasting or through tzedakah or through not sinning, as the joke goes, as the story goes. Beginning with Perek Daled, he starts to explain tshuva al derech hasad, that it's tashuv hay, returning the hay to its rightful place. And he gives us 2 possibilities. The first possibility is that we're connected to Lakus. We do an Aveda, we cut ourselves off. Small Avedas cut us off a little bit, bigger Avedas cut us off more, cut us and misses cut us off completely. That's how it was in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. But there's another possibility. We can't get to Lakus, and the Avedas don't cut us off from the Eibishter, they put the Eibishter into Golus with us. That the Neshama goes into Golus and something called Golus HaShechina. When that happens, we can get Chayes from Klipa, and not only that, Neitel Chelek Bereish, we get from the beginning of Klipa. Therefore, we could live much longer, and it doesn't seem like we're being punished for our Vedas, but there's the opportunity to fix it. That in the world of the Beis HaMikdash, where you're cut off is cut off. Now, it's not that we're getting cut off. We're exiling a lukus, exiling our own godliness, it can be repaired. And in Perek Zayin, he starts talking about tshuva itself. Zayin and the first half of Ches talk about what's called tshuva tata, the lesser tshuva, and the rest of Perek Ches, Perek Tes, and Perek Yud talk about tshuva Allah, the greater tshuva. What is tshuva tata? 3 things. First point is to be the Eid Rachman, to have Rachmanas on godliness, and Rachmanas on your own neshama when you think what we do Avedis. The second is Zivchei Elikim, Ruach Nishbar Leiv Nishba V'Nitkir. Karbonis Sat Hashem Havaya. Zivchei Elikim, what's a carbon? The Shem Elikim, Leiv Nishba. When we break our heart, Ruach Nishbara, that it breaks the stranglehold that Klipa has on us, and it returns us to the Eibishter's graces. Alter Rebbe mentioned Sigufim and Tinius, but he mentioned mostly Morad HaChoshma, to make cheshbon of our Avedis, the things we need to correct. Make a cheshbon of things we need to correct. First of all, how many small Avedas equal a big Aveda. Certainly those small Avedas that are compared to Aveda Zarah, Gil Reis, and Shvichas Damim, as he had said at the end of Perek Zayin. So we feel terrible, basically. So there's 2 building blocks so far. Having Rachmanas on your neshama, by making a cheshbon tzedek of the things that we did wrong, and by breaking the stranglehold that Klipa has on us, through breaking our heart, which breaks the spirit of Klipa and Sitra Achra. Correct? Begins Perek Ches with the 3rd inyan. V'hinei. Now, when a person will think deeply into everything we discussed earlier, which is the cheshbon hanefesh of my big Avedis and my small Avedis, and how many small Avedis add up to a big one, and how in fact it's possible that we've done small Avedis that the Gemara does not consider small at all, but compares it to Aveda Zarah, Gil Reis, and Shvichas Damim. Yuchal levakesh b'yemes b'yom kedaliba, a person can request and mean it from the depths of his heart and his soul, with your great compassion, with your great mercies, clean my sins. So the Alter Rebbe is saying that the Morad HaChoshma, the taking stock of our Avedis, which is really part and parcel of giving ourselves musar, allows us to properly ask Hashem for Rachmanas. In other words, the first point of Perek Zayin was having Rachmanas on the neshama. Second point of Perek Zayin was giving ourselves musar. He said, when we give us and breaking ourselves, when we give ourselves musar and break ourselves properly, this affects that we should have real Rachmanas on the Eibishter, on the neshama, on godliness. Because only then tikva beliba be'emes will be fixed in the person's heart be'emes. Geid la Rachmanas, the great mercy, al bechinas al kutsha benafsha, and his godly soul. V'shalamayla, and godliness above. The heitata, which is exiled canals we discussed earlier in the beginning of Perek Zayin. Which leads us to the 3rd point of Tshuva Tata, and that is it brings on mercies from Hashem, from the 13 attributes of mercy, which are brought down from the will of Hashem, which is higher than Atzilus, Kesed, which is hinted in the crown of the letter Yud, Shalamayla, which is higher and even higher. From the flow, Hanishpas, which flows from the 4 letters of Shem Havai. In Tanya Perek Daled, Alter Rebbe spoke about the idea that an neshama is compared to godliness. First of all, basically because of a Yipach, he blew it. You guys like Tshuva Perek Daled. And second of all, because of the Yud Kei Vav Kei comparison. And there the Rebbe pointed out that the Alter Rebbe doesn't simply say that our Yud compares to Hashem's Yud, he mentions the crown. Why? Because he wants to mention it here too. The pagam, the blemish, is in the Yud Kei Vav Kei, or in the lower hay and the higher hay. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it cut us off, right? Now it puts us into Golus. It puts the lower hay into Golus, and it puts the higher hay into Golus. Correct? So you have to fix it. How? feeling achmanis on the elikus, which is in galus, and breaking the spiritual negative hold that klipa has on you through many avedas. And then what? Your mamshach eibish achmanis. Hashem's achmanis from Kesed. Why? Because Kesed is above the place where the aveda reaches. Our connection to Hashem is connected to the 4 letters Yud Kei Vav Kei, or the 2 Heys primarily, that we could cut off, that we could exile. The crown above the Yud is higher than Shem Havaya on the one hand. It's connected to the Dal Ois of the Shem Havaya on the other. And from the level of the Shleish Esei Mitzvah Rachamim, since the Aveda does not reach it, we're able to fix it and repair it. That's basically what he's saying. And this is the reason that Ayud Gimel Midas Arachim, the 13 attributes of mercy, Menakim Kolabamim, will clean all of the wounds that we create. Ukmeshakasav Neisei Oven, it tolerates, and tolerates doesn't only mean it dilutes, but it transforms sin, which is done on purpose, Upesha, which is done wantonly, Venake, and it wipes us clean. So when we bring down the 13 attributes of mercy, the Avedas are corrected. So what's the deal? The deal is that in times of Golus, we create what's called a Pagam. A Pagam means that Kedusha is trapped in Klipa, and we're able to get Chayas from Klipa. Tshuva means to correct this Pagam, that Kedusha should only go to Kedusha, and Klipa should not be able to get Chayas. How do we heal this Pagam? So there's our end, and then there's the Eibishter's end. Our end is breaking ourselves. We break ourselves, we break the stranglehold Klipa has on us. Hashem's end is the Rachmanis. When you break yourself, you have mercy on godliness, you evoke the Eibishter's Rachmanis. And the Eibishter brings down a koyach to heal, to correct. To say it in psychological terms, remember we had this discussion many times, that an Aveda is a desensitization effect. You do something wrong, yeah? You do something wrong. So you do something wrong. It's called the Merida Melech Macham Lacham HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the rebellion of the Eibishter, which is the initial event that happens in that one moment. But then there's the Pagam. The long-term effect is that you lose your feel for Ruchnius. Eventually you don't even care anymore about Avedas. You lose your sensitization so much you don't care. Tshuva is not only being forgiven for the Avedas. Tshuva not only affects that Hashem should forgive us, but it resensitizes. When you do tshuva, it creates a resensitization. You get back the old feel that you lost through the Aveda. And there's 2 issues. Breaking your own self breaks the desensitization, the heaviness, the lethargy, the grubness that Avedas bring onto a person. And the Rachmanis arouses the Eibishter should have Rachmanis. The Eibishter's Rachmanis means he gives you koyach. He gives you koyach to be resensitized by lifting up the hay into Kedusha, by lifting up your godliness and bringing it back to Kedusha. This is what he's saying here. Therefore, your Gimel Midas Aracham, the 13 attributes of mercy, Menakim clean, Kol HaPagam, all the wounds. Or the Pasuk says, Nesi Avim Ve'ver Upesha V'Nake, he tolerates and transforms sins and he cleans them. V'Shov, and from that point forward, and Yenika L'chitzenim. There's no nourishment to Klipa, V'Asitra Achra. Me'ashpa Aseta Kanaf, from the lower hay. When we do Avedas, the hay goes into Golus and Klipa gets. When we do Tshuva, first by feeling bad, which cleans the desensitization effect, and then by having Rachmanis, which reveals the Eibishter's Rachamim, it puts the hay back into its correct place, the lower hay. Ubazeh Toshav Hay Tatol Limkema, which explains the idea of returning the lower hay to its place. Lis Yachet, to become one again, but Yud Kei Vav, with the 3 letters Yud Kei Vav, Vidal is sufficient to understand. And Aveda displaces the lower hay, and later on you'll see what he mentioned already before. Certain Avedas displace the higher hay, and Tshuva places it back where it belongs. And Tshuva involves pain on the person's part, regret, remorse, but it also involves returning the hay to its correct place with the Eibishter's Rachmanos. It's true in a person. When a person breaks himself, and then he's made a Racham Ram from the Eibishter, so the Neshama refocuses, resensitizes on the Eibishter, and Shuvah Nevin Asechem Avdilim. Yesterday's Aveda, that was a sin on 2 levels. An Aveda is an Aveda for 2 reasons. First of all, it's an Aveda because it's a Merida. I did something against the Eibishter's wishes. Second of all, it makes me permanently desensitized. It scars me spiritually. I don't feel Ruchnius anymore. You regain that sensitization. You break the wall that Klipa creates. The Tshuva cleans away the long-term effect of the Aveda. That Menake Hula Shavim, the Gemara says, Hashem wipes clean those who return to the Eibishter, Lirchet to wash, Lenakes, and to clean Nafshem, their souls, Milavushim Atzayim, from the filthy garments, Hey Machitzenim, which is Klipis, which goes to the Gemara Melafafte V'Gemet. The Gemara says that an Aveda is Melafafte, that an Aveda surrounds you and hugs you and desensitizes you, and tshuva removes the stranglehold of klipa and it gives you back your resensitization. Okay? So there's three inyanim. Having rachmanas nelakus, zivchei elikim ruch nishbara, those you're beating up on yourself, and then the yeseiros of the gimel midas arachim. What you're trying to accomplish is to break the desensitization effect of the Aveira and to bring down the Rachmim of Hashem, which will give you resensitization, give you a feel of Ruchnius, that yesterday's Aveira, last week's Aveira shouldn't make me numb. I should be sensitive to Ruchnius from here and on. Okay? This is what the Tshuva Torah accomplishes. So that has a sicha. It's not directly on these words, but it's implicit. That in Tshuva, there's two parts. There's the essence of Tshuva, and then there's the details of Tshuva. The essence of Tshuva Torah, we learned in Perek Aleph. The essence of Tshuva Torah is Aziv Zachet Muvar. I'm not going to sin anymore. That's enough. Here, we're learning all kinds of fancy stuff, which are not simply about Aziv Zachet. They're about Charata. They're about even regret and feeling bad. So the Rebbe explains in effect that there's a point to Tshuva. The point of Tshuva is to return to Hashem. And you may recall what we had in an earlier class. In returning to Hashem also, there's the Kabbalah Sel itself, and there's the Pnimius of Kabbalah Sel to know the Eibishter. And then there is the cleansing process that takes away the desensitization, the hardness, the disconnect that Avedas bring onto a person in a long term, that we should regain a sensitivity to the Eibishter. This is Tshuva Torah. The Nakud of Tshuva Torah is Azivas Zachat Bovad, and the process of Tshuva Torah is to take away the wall between us and a Lakus and put a Lakus back where it belongs. We do it through being bitter and being made at Achmim. We bring down the Gimel Mitzvah Sarachim. Why Yud Gimel Mitzvah Sarachim work? Because since the Aveda never touches the Gimel Mitzvah Sarachim, from the Gimel Mitzvah Sarachim, the Aveda is reparable. You get it? This is the point. What's the Nakud of Tshuva Torah? It's a negative exercise. I'm focusing on what I did wrong. I want to get back a sensitivity. I want that Kedusha should get Chayas only from Kedusha and should be Mashpiyah Chayas only to things that are Kedusha. I want to put the hay where it belongs. I want to put my Neshama in a connection with the Eibishter, and I do that by feeling bad for my Avedas and by being made a Rachim Umayim. So you're focusing on what you did wrong. Okay? The next year begins Tshuva Ilah.